everyone, welcome to this update video this morning. I hope you're doing really great. So we are going to be talking about what is going on across the North Atlantic basin. So as we can see on the graphic here from the National Hurricane Center, there are three highlighted areas in terms of potentially seeing development. We have that spot in the Caribbean, which is highlighted. Now that area of low pressure has not yet formed. It is expected to form over the course of the coming days from what is known as the Central American gyre. So what that is, it's a broad area of low pressure within the vicinity of Central America, and sometimes from it, with all the increase in moisture and instability, we can get these tropical systems developing. That's something that happens quite often in the hurricane season. So we could see that happen over the coming days as we head into next week, and eventually something is likely to head into the Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to be looking at that in a bit more detail, and there are also those other two systems. Let's briefly talk about those. So one is associated with the remnants of previously known tropical storm Gordon. So there is currently a low chance of seeing redevelopment or re-intensification, and then for that other area that's not too far from it, also a low chance of seeing something try to get itself together there. But as of right now, those two are not problems for anyone. But as it relates to the system that will be in the Caribbean, it is a pretty high likelihood that there is going to be that flood threat because of all of that increase in moisture. So we're going to be looking at that. We'll be looking at the rainfall forecast for today, the short term, as well as the next couple of days. And we'll be taking a look at the models and conditions out there as well. So as of right now, switching to the satellite imagery, we can see these systems, remnants of Gordon, and that other low pressure area, bit of activity associated with it. As we head to the Caribbean, we can see that it's pretty active in the West Caribbean and near the Pacific coast of Central America as well. As we zoom in here, we can see a better look at what's going on. So there was some thunderstorm activity in parts of Haiti, but that has been dissipating. Maybe some scattered showers around for parts of the Lesser Antilles. Nothing crazy expected today, though. And then as we head further west, it gets a lot more active. We can see these bursts of convection in and around Central America. So let's look at the short-term rainfall forecast, and the more color we see indicates more rainfall activity. So towards Panama, parts of Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, maybe some spots in Belize as well, especially southern Belize and Mexico, including the Bay Islands and the islands of San Andres and Providencia offshore. There's likely to be quite a bit of moisture around, which will help to induce a lot of rainfall activity. And with all of this rain around, all this these continuous downpours, especially heavy downpours, that can eventually lead to flooding, and it's going to be very active within this general area over the course of the coming days. So what's happening is that there is currently a tropical wave which is there. So that's with the blob that we saw, the satellite imagery, that is associated with a tropical wave. But the area of low pressure to form is going to be within that same general area where we may see some development as it lifts north to the vicinity of the Gulf of Mexico. Then as we head towards Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, there's likely to be some showers, maybe even thunderstorms around, especially as we head into later this afternoon. Parts of Cuba will likely be active with some heavy rainfall. Same thing for much of the Bahamas. As we head to the Turks and Caicos, much not expected. Could see some additional showers, thunderstorms in parts of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and some scattered showers and thunderstorms about the Lesser Antilles. But the rainfall chance gets significantly lower for the Grenadines, Grenada, Barbados, Trinidad, and Tobago. Scattered showers definitely possible for the ABC Islands today. Parts of Colombia and Venezuela will likely be active, but the Guyanas will potentially be on the drier side with very little rainfall activity. However, looking at the accumulation through the course of the next 5 days, let's look at this. We can see here that it's looking very, very vibrant within the vicinity of Central America and parts of the Western Caribbean. So there could be some of those whitish shadings that we're seeing indicate rainfall amounts probably up to 8 inches in total over the course of the next 5 days. So again, with that broad low pressure area developing, that gyre, that is going to be helping out with increasing the rainfall, and that's going to result in the flood threat across many Central American territories. And depending on how much of that activity or how widespread that activity is, other areas such as the Cayman Islands and even Jamaica could experience an increase in rainfall as we head into next week. So it's going to get pretty active within this general region. So Let's go ahead and take a look at what the models are forecasting, after which we'll look at the conditions out there. So first up, we're looking at the Euro ensemble members, and we can see that there's quite a bit of members around, and they're all, well, most of them are favoring that we could see something in the Gulf of Mexico. And if we have a tropical storm or even a hurricane developing, someone is going to get hit. That's just how it is. Someone is going to get hit along the Gulf Coast, but hopefully it won't be anything too crazy. But the strength, the intensity, the magnitude of impacts will all be dependent on the environmental conditions out there. Looking at the GFS members, we can see something pretty much similar here. Some of these want to show a stronger system, but majority of them also favor something in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's going to be the pretty likely outcome. Now, the Gulf is very warm. There are very warm waters of 29 headed to 30 degrees Celsius to support tropical cyclone development. And even in the northwestern Caribbean, 31 degrees, because it's been very warm, not only at the ocean surface, but beneath the surface. There's a lot of energy stored, waiting to fuel these tropical systems, because remember, we haven't really had much happen in the Caribbean, so that energy hasn't really been depleted throughout the hurricane season. So there is a lot that is stored right now if something were to actually develop. And even in the long term, headed to October, we could see things really kick up across the tropics as well. In terms of the upper level winds, this map may be a little bit confusing, but we have these different colored lines. The red lines indicate where there's unfavorable upper level winds. Yellow indicates where it's neutral, not really bad, but not really the best conditions for development. But the green lines indicate a favorable environment for development in terms of the upper level winds. As of right now, the Caribbean isn't the most favorable. We can see some of those red lines around. Same thing for the Gulf of Mexico. So we're seeing some of these red lines around. Now, this is something that changes constantly, because with the upper level winds, we could see the environment getting a bit more conducive as that airflow pressure develops and makes its way to the Gulf. But there will be a frontal system moving out of the U.S. And with these frontal systems, there is increased unfavorable upper level winds, and there's also dry air, which follows behind that frontal boundary. And those would help to keep the conditions a little bit more on the unfavorable side, so that the system would struggle or put up a little bit of a fight in terms of intensifying. So we'll see how that goes as well. But initially, a lot of the models were forecasting that we could see a pretty strong hurricane become of this. And now they're kind of backing off a little bit in terms of the intensity, which is great. But nothing is solid just yet regardless, guys. We have to keep watching, because changes are always inevitable. So that's going to be potentially the story as we head into next week, the latter part of next week, where we could see something develop and get itself together. As of now, medium 40% chance of that happening. And again, we're not seeing an X because that area of low pressure has not yet formed, but it is expected to form over the course of the coming few days. And so, guys, that is what I wanted to share with you in this update video this morning. And I do hope you found it to be very informative. If you have any questions, though, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond to you when I can. And remember to always do otherwise.